everyone, today's video will be me talking about the books that I've read that have had a big impact on me. Hopefully you will understand when I talk about these books what I mean when I say have had a big impact on me, because for every single book it's kind of different. Also, before I get into the books, I just want to say that yes, I'm wearing the harness again. If you've watched, I think, my third video on this channel, you'll know that I tried wearing this harness and my hair got stuck in it. It took me like 20 minutes to get it out. And I still don't know how to properly wear it because I feel like my hair's completely covering it. And my hair's definitely going to get stuck in it again. But I'm going to give it another try and see if it works this time. So hopefully you guys are appreciating the harness, because I'm struggling with it and I'm scared that I'm going to lose a lot of hair in the process of wearing this. So hopefully you guys appreciate it. So the first book that I want to talk about in this video about books that have had an impact on me is actually a book that I didn't really like that much. I think I gave it 3.5 stars, which means that I still liked it, but I didn't love it. But it still had a big impact on me, so that's why it's on this list. Yeah, just because it had a big impact on me doesn't mean that I completely love it, just to make that clear. So the book that I'm talking about is The Girl with the Louding Voice. I read this book a couple months ago, I think, and I had a difficult time getting through it because it made me very anxious and very panicky while I was reading it. I almost had a panic attack in the middle of reading this because of a very specific scene, because it deals with very heavy topics. Basically, the plot of the story is that you follow the main character, who is the third wife of a man that she doesn't want to be married to, but she has to marry him because her family has financial issues. And yeah, it's basically her story about how she wants to go to school again. And basically throughout the book you can see her language getting better. The writing in the very beginning of the book is completely different than the writing at the very end of the book, which I really liked that. I feel like it really added a lot to the story and it made you really live through this girl, which is the reason why I was so panicky while reading it, because I felt like I was experiencing it. But yeah, it still had a very big impact on me. It talked about very important things, and I feel like it's a very important story, but it can be quite difficult to get through, which is the reason why I say that I liked it and I didn't love it, but it did have a very big impact on me. So yeah. The next book is a book that I read last year, I believe, and I actually tried reading it before that, but because of very specific circumstances, I decided not to continue with it. I'll explain it in a little bit when I see what the book is. But yeah, I read this book last year, and again, I didn't completely love it, but it did have a very big impact on me, and this is a book that I think about some of the scenes in this very frequently. The book that I'm talking about is Forgive Me, Leonard Peacock. This book is about the main character, Leonard, and basically he brings a gun to school and is planning on killing a bunch of people that he feels wronged him in a way. And yeah, when I started reading this book a couple of years ago, I read it and I, for some reason, decided to read it, and the same day, a couple hours later, there was a school shooting in America. I can't remember which one it was. I think it was the Parkland shooting, but don't quote me on that. But yeah, I decided to read this book, and then a couple hours later that shooting happens, and I was yeah, I'm not gonna continue reading this book because that feels inappropriate. So I didn't finish it. I only got to about 20 pages. And then last year I decided to finish reading it. I started it again and I finished reading it. And yeah, I actually, like I said, I didn't love it, but I did really like it. I feel like it went into a direction that I didn't expect. I expected this book to go a very specific way, and it didn't do that. It talked about quite important issues. And like I said, there are certain scenes in this book that I can't stop thinking about. Even right now, I'm thinking of one in specific. And it just makes me feel like really sad, you know? Because I feel like I went into this book expecting a very specific thing. Like this guy goes into a school and wants to kill a bunch of people. And I was expecting that. But I didn't get that. And I'm glad about that. But I'm also just, I feel like it took me off guard, you know? Like it took me off guard in in a good way, I think. Because I feel like because it took me off guard, that's why it stayed in my head. Like if I knew that the story would go like this, I think it wouldn't have stayed in my head so much. But yeah, because it took me off guard, I feel like I keep thinking about it, like very specific scenes. But yeah, like I said, because of the topic of this book, I don't really like recommend it to just anyone. Like it's a very specific topic. You know, it's very difficult to read about. So I wouldn't say I recommend it, but I am gonna say it had an impact on me. So yeah, let's just get into the next book. The next book is a book that I've owned for a very, very long time. I think it's one of the first books that I ever bought in English. And that's because it's a classic and a lot of people love it. And for some reason, I only read it last year because I was really intimidated by the story itself and the size of the book and the genre, because I don't really read a lot of books like that. So the book is The Book Thief. That was a lot of the word book in one sentence, but ignore it. I only read this book last year because of the size of it. It's very big, but I did really, really love it. I loved it a lot more than I thought I would because, again, I don't read a lot of these books. I think it's called like historical fiction. I'm not sure about that, but I think that's what it's called. I don't read a lot of books like that because I don't particularly like that genre. But I ended up reading it and I ended up loving it. And then afterwards, I really wanted to read more books like this. Like I own a couple more historical fiction books that I've never read. And yeah, after I finished this one, I really wanted to read those as well. But I didn't want to like overdo it and like read too many at a time and then completely burn myself out. So I haven't actually read another historical fiction since I finished this. But I really want to. But yeah, I really loved this book. I feel like I don't really need to say why it impacted me because so many people have read this book or know about it or have watched the movie, because I know that there's a movie. I haven't watched it, but yeah, I feel like I don't need to explain why it impacted me, especially the ending. Like it made me cry a lot. And yeah, I really liked this book. I wasn't expecting to like it because I feel like, again, because it's a genre I never read, I was expecting not to like it as much. But I really did, and I actually read it quite fast, which again, with the size of the book, that doesn't really happen to me a lot. But yeah, I really enjoyed it. I'm not going to talk about it anymore because I don't really know what else to say about it considering it's so popular, but also because my arm really hurts from holding it up because it is so big. So I'm going to put it down now. The next book that I want to talk about in this video is not actually a book. It's actually a manga. And in specific, it's actually an extra story in a manga. So it's not even a part of the main story of the manga, which that sounds really confusing, but I hope you'll know what I mean when I hold the book up, or the manga, I guess. So the manga that I'm talking about is Maid-sama, which I probably completely mispronounced that, but it's not the main story of this manga. This is like the double version. It has volume 1 and volume 2. But it is the extra story that is in this manga. It is called A Transparent World, and it's only like a couple pages long. I think it's like about like 15 to 20 pages long, maybe even less than that. And it made me cry so much. Like it was actually ridiculous. Like I was planning on skipping it because it's like in between the 2 volumes, and I was planning on skipping it because I just wanted to read Maid-sama, and then I was like, no, you know what, I'm not gonna skip it. And then I ended up bawling my eyes out at an extra story of like 15 pages. Like, it was actually ridiculous. But yeah, that's why I put it on this list, because it had an impact on me that I definitely wasn't expecting. So yeah, it's basically a very short story about like a boy who's dead and like his ghost is still there, and there's a girl who used to like this boy, and she like helps him move on, and it's very sad but happy at the same time, but also very sad, and it's a lot. So I feel like this is not really a story I can recommend because it's in the middle of a volume of a completely different manga. But I guess if you own this manga and you've never read A Transparent World, because it's like an extra story that has nothing to do with Maid-sama, I guess pick up the volume you own and read it. I think it's only in these versions of the volumes. I don't think it's in the separate ones. It feels really weird to put it on this list, but I'm gonna do it anyway because this is my channel and I decide what I do with it. So yeah, my arm is actually killing me from holding these books up. Like, it's actually ridiculous. I am so incredibly weak, which is strange considering I work out every single day, but still, it's so strange. The next book I'm just gonna mention very shortly because I've talked about this book way too much. In the video that I actually filmed before this one, I talked about this book and I mentioned I talk about it too much, and now I'm mentioning it again, but I promise I'm gonna try not to do it anymore. The book that I'm talking about is Everything I Never Told You. Like I said, I'm gonna keep it really short. This is a book that made me cry a lot. I filmed like a reading vlog of me reading it. It talks about very important subjects, and it had a bigger impact on me than I expected. I wasn't planning on bawling my eyes out when I read this. If you haven't read it at this point, go read it because a lot of people love it. I'm not like the only one. A lot of people love it. So yeah, I recommend it. That's all I'm gonna say about it. I'm gonna stop talking about this book now. Then the next book is a book that I don't really talk about a lot on this channel, which is weird considering I really liked it. I didn't love it once again, but I really liked it, and that is More Happy Than Not. I absolutely despise this copy of this book. I hate it in every single way. I hate the way it feels, I hate the way it looks, and I really badly want the other version of this book that's like completely yellow with like a guy on the front of the cover. I really like that one, but I just can't make myself buy it when I already have this copy. But someday I will, when I have like more shelf space and the ability to make choices for myself, I guess. I will hopefully buy it. But yeah, I really like this book. I didn't love it, like I said. I tried reading it like 2 times before I managed to finish it because it was really difficult to get into. But once you get to a very specific part of the book, you kind of can't stop reading it because you're so intrigued by what's happening. But yeah, the story of this book is very difficult to talk about because it makes me really sad whenever I think about it, especially some of the last scenes in this book. So I'm not really going to talk about it a lot because it's also a book you kind of have to get into without knowing a lot about it. The book does have some issues, like there's some ableism, I think. I can't really remember that well, but yeah, I did really like this book. It did have issues, but I did really like it. It made me very sad, and it still makes me very sad. It's one of these books that, again, some of the passages in this book just play in my head like 24/7. It's the reason why I really want a different copy of this book, because I want to be able to display it and like show my appreciation for it. But I don't want to display this one because it's so ugly, and I hate the size of it and how like big it is, and no. But yeah, if you haven't read this book, I recommend you read it. It's basically by the same author as like History Is All You Left Me and They Both Die at the End, which are two very popular books, but this is, I think, like his least popular one. If you're like, I don't want to read this one because it's not that popular, I do still recommend it because I did like it. So yeah, I'm gonna stop holding it now because I don't want this to be on screen any longer. I really hate it. Like, I don't mind the colors of this. It's quite pretty, but everything else, just no. Then finally, we have come to the last book on this list. And I feel like everyone was expecting me to mention this book considering the name of my channel. And the second I say the name of my channel, I know like half of you who are watching this are going to be like, oh, I know what she's going to hold up. Because yes, I'm that predictable, but you know, if it's in the name of my channel, it definitely had an impact on me. So obviously the book, or duology should I say, that I'm talking about is Six of Crows. I'm really regretting picking this copy to hold up just because I think it's pretty, because my arm really hurts, like I've already said. But yeah, obviously because it's in the name of my channel and I created my entire channel around one of the characters in this book. This book and the second book in this duology had a really big impact on me, mainly because this was the first book with a disabled main character that uses a cane as a mobility aid. And I read this before I got my cane because I already needed my cane at the point when I read it, but I didn't want to buy one because I was like, I'm barely 20 years old. Like, I don't want to use a cane at 20. And then I read this book and I was like, Kaz is younger than me and he uses a cane. And he still manages to look cool, so maybe I can look cool. I mean, I don't look cool when I use it, but I like to imagine that I do. Point being, this book really impacted me. Obviously, I really love this story as well. I really want to reread it, but yeah, the main impact that this story had on me was because of Cass. And because of the fact that he's a young person who's disabled who uses a cane. So yeah, I'm gonna stop talking about it now because I'm starting to get a lot of pain, not just in my arm now, but now in my other arm as well. I'm just gonna stop filming and I'm just gonna put this book down and end this video. So like I said, that was the last book on this list. I hope that you enjoyed this video. I guess put some books down below that you thought had a really big impact on you. I would really love to know and get some like recommendations. So yeah, like I said, I'm gonna end this video here because I'm in a lot of pain suddenly for seemingly no reason whatsoever. But yeah, I'm gonna end this video here. I hope that you liked it. I hope that you appreciated the harness that I'm wearing. Luckily enough, my hair isn't stuck in it this time. I guess that's good at least. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed this video and bye.